Hey guys, so first of all, I just want to wish a happy birthday to Elliot and Jake Conroy. Their birthdays are on Friday. So happy birthday, and you all get a great birthday present. There's no school on your birthday. So you all enjoy your day tomorrow, no school, take a break. I know everybody's been working really hard. So thank you, we all appreciate it, and enjoy your day on Friday. Mr. Chan and I are working on getting your quizzes graded. We will post an answer key once everybody finishes taking the quiz. Not all students have finished taking it yet. Some students were absent, so please make sure that you're still held to the honor code, not talking to your friends about the quiz because not everybody's finished yet. Today we're talking about a graph lesson that actually is not in your textbook. So it's just kind of a bonus lesson that I wanted to tie in with these chapters. And it's going to be a big review about what you've already covered in science, bar graph, line graph, and a pie graph or circle graph. So that'll be good for you to review those concepts from science. Next week, we'll learn lessons 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. Then we'll take a day in review, and your test over the first 3 lessons of chapter 9 that you just took your quiz over, this bonus lesson, and then the first 3 lessons of chapter 10 is on May 13th. That's your last assessment in math. So just for the last couple days after that, we'll do some fun activities. So y'all are almost there. Keep going strong, and let's get going with this graph lesson. Okay, so like I said before, this is going to be a review of what you covered in science. And I know that you've talked about bar graph, line graph, and circle graph in science. And you talked about SOLTN, an acronym to help you remember everything to include when you are making a graph. So graph lesson, and today's the 30th. Remember that the S stands for scale. You have number axes, consistent numbering. It's neat and easy to read. So you might need to count, if your data is in the hundreds, 150, 231, whatever, you might need to count your scale by 100s. If your data is all the way, in 90s and 80s and 70s and 50s, you might need to count by 10s. You might need to count by 5s, you might need to count by 2s, just depending on what your data is. So that is the scale, the number on your axes, and it's important that it's consistent. Neat and easy to read. You want people to be able to read your graph. So S stands for the scale. U stands for the units. It tells what the numbers are. Are you talking about meters? Are you talking about seconds? Are you talking about feet? So what are you talking about? The U stands for units. L is the labels, so it describes what you're being measured on each axis. Are you talking about fruits? Are you talking about number of people? Are you talking about birthday months? Are you talking about favorite colors? So this describes what's being measured, so you know what you're looking at. The T stands for title, which is written across the top of the graph. It tells the purpose of the graph. What is that graph displaying? It has the dependent and independent variables, DV and IV, and I know you all took a science quiz talking about the difference between independent and dependent variables. So this is an example of when math and science are really overlapped, and these concepts are being reviewed in math, and I know that they were taught more at the beginning of the year in science. A stands for accuracy, so making sure that you plot the points or draw the bars in the correct location. Lines are drawn with a ruler, being really precise. Otherwise, your graph wouldn't be correct or accurate. And then the N stands for neatness, making sure that your words and numbers are written clearly. The ruler is used for lines, legend when space is limited. So just writing clearly, using a ruler, being precise and neat. So you want to make sure that you remember all this from science. Have these in your notes. You can pause the screen if you need, so you can jot that down. We're talking about 3 different graphs. So the 3 different types of graphs that we will talk about today are bar graph, line graph, and a pie or circle graph. You need to make sure that you understand the difference and which one is used for what. So a bar graph is used to display and compare information. It's really good to compare information. So that's what a bar graph is used for. And if you remember, a bar graph kind of looks something like this. We'll look through examples, but that's a bar graph. A line graph shows how data changes over time. So it's usually you look at trends as something increasing or decreasing over time. So here's an example of a line graph. You can see that over time, days of the week, increasing or decreasing over time. We'll look at examples of that as well. And then you have a pie or a circle graph, and that's a part to whole relationship, and the total adds up to 100%. So here, if you're looking at, favorite sports, it's broken up by a percentage, and it shows you this little bit is gymnastics compared to the whole. So part to whole relationship on a circle graph. Those are the 3 types of graphs that we're going to look at today, and we're going to go through and answer questions on them. Okay, so now we're just going to go through a bunch of examples and make sure that we're familiar with looking at graphs and being able to answer questions and analyze graphs. If we were in person, we would be able to practice making the graphs, and we would be able to check your graphs and get direct feedback. That's a little bit more challenging with distance learning. So we're going to focus on making sure that you are able to read and interpret and understand a graph. And I know that you practiced making all these different types of graph in science, or different types of graphs in science class. And so we're really focusing on making sure that you can read them and answer the questions. You do not need to be able to make them and make the graphs, but you do need to be able to answer questions about them, know what Sultan stands for, and know the purpose of a bar graph, line graph, and pie and circle graph. Okay, so this graph has a title. Let's go through Sultan. It has a scale here. It counts by just ones. It really counts here by 2s, but it has a tick mark for every one. The units tell what the numbers are. This one is grams. Okay, so they could write it like this, G for grams. The labels describe what's being measured. Sultan, I'm going to put that up here so we can check. The labels, yeah, we have grams of sugar per serving, and then the percent of cereals. Oh, so this has a label or a unit as well that we didn't have, percent. A title, yep, amount of sugar per serving of cereal. Hey, they must know that we are doing the cereal bracket challenge. And then accuracy and neatness. A computer obviously made this graph, so it's very accurate and neat. So let's look here. It says, what percent of the cereals had 3 grams of sugar per serving? So we're looking for 3 grams of sugar per serving. Grams of sugar per serving is down here. That's these numbers. So I'm going to look at 3 and follow that percent all the way up to the top. Follow that line over, and I can answer that 17%. What percent of the cereals had less than 2 grams of sugar per serving? Well, here's 2 grams of sugar per serving, and I want to know what percent of the cereals had less than that. So I want to know any cereals that had 1% or 0% of sugar. 1%, if I follow that bar over, it actually looks like it's about 2.5%. And then if I follow this one over, it's right at 7%. So what percent of the cereals had less than 2 grams? That's anyone that had 0 or 1. I'm going to add those together and say 9.5%. 9.5%, because this one, again, you have to be super accurate. Look carefully. You could even use, a piece of paper if you wanted to draw that line over and see that it's right in between that 2 and that 3. 2.5. What percent of the cereals had more than 9 grams of sugar per serving? So more than 9, that means 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15. More than 9. So I want to add all these percents up. 10, I'm going to have to get my straight edge here to follow 10 all the way across and see that 10 is right at 6.5 here. So is 11, 6.5. 12, follow my straight edge all the way across and see that that hits right at 7. 13, follow my straight edge all the way across and see that 13 hits right at 5. Follow my straight edge for 14 all the way across and see that hits at 3. And 15, follow that straight edge all the way across and see that hits at 2. Okay, now I can add all that up and see that I get, that's 13 plus 7 is 20, 25, 28, and 30. So 30% of the cereals have more than 9 grams. All right, Mr. Chine and I are on the Schoology conference if you have any questions as we're going through this lesson. Let's keep going through another bar graph. So you can pause the video and see if you can answer these questions. We'll go through them together now as well. Which fruit got the most votes as the nicest fruit? Well, the nicest fruit, we have our title, we have our scale. Look, that's important. They're counting by 5s here. Go through Sultan. Sorry, I forgot that at the beginning before we even read our questions. Units, well, these are the fruit, number of people. And then go through our labels. Those are our labels. Title, nicest fruit. I guess I could have put fruit down here at the bottom to label this as fruit. Accuracy and neatness. Now, which fruit got the most votes as the nicest fruit? You can see the biggest bar on the bar graph is blueberry. So that's what a bar graph is really good for, is comparing to see which one's the greatest, which one's the least, which one has the most, more than something, less than something. Which fruit is the least nicest fruit? You can see it's grapes, the smallest one there, grapes. Which fruits have more votes than orange? So looking at an orange here, we want more votes than orange. If this is where orange is right here, which ones are taller than that? Is apple and blueberry. Which fruits have less votes than orange? So anything smaller than orange, that would be banana, kiwi, and grapes. So hopefully this one made a little bit more sense. That one at the top, talking about the sugar of cereal, I can understand that maybe was a little bit confusing with the numbers down here and then the percents. But you're a little bit more familiar with bar graphs looking at this one next. All right, more questions with the bar graph. Let's look here at students' favorite color. So, Sultan, they have the scale by 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Units, favorite color, and labels, red, blue, green, black, pink, number of students, with a title, accuracy, and neatness. So what is the most favorite color, or what is the most favorite color? Looking at all the bar graphs, good for comparison. You can see that red is the tallest. What is the least favorite color? You can see that pink is the shortest. What color got 10 votes? So here's 5 and 10. Let's follow 10 all the way and see, oh, green. Green got 10 votes. How many students said blue is their favorite color? So blue, follow it over. 15. All right, now this next one, birthday of students by month. Here are your list of questions. You can pause the video and see if you can answer those. Let's go through them together now. What months have 3 students' birthdays in the month? So look at your scale, 0, 2, 4, 6. So a 3 would be right in between the 2 and the 4. This is where a 3 would be, right there. So anything that has a 3, what months have 3 students' birthdays? That would be January, keep following, April, keep following, and that's all. So January and April. What month has the most birthdays? The tallest one, June, that would be your mode. Mode is the most. So up here, red is the mode, the most. What month has the least birthdays? You're looking for the smallest little bar, and that is August. What months have the same number of students' birthdays? List all pairs. Well, we already know January and April have the same, so January and April have the same. Any others that have the same? I'm going to kind of go through month by month. January and April, anything with February? Oh, I see February and November. March, April, we already have. May, oh, I see May and October. June, July, August, September. Oh, I see September and December. October, November, I already have, so we're good there. All right, so there were 4 pairs. What months have more birthdays than September? If this is the cutoff for September, right here at 7, a ruler would help. So what months have more birthdays than September would be May, June, and October. How many more people have birthdays in June than May? So again, we're comparing. Lots of these questions are just simply comparing all this data. More birthdays in June. How many more people have birthdays in June than May? June, there are 10, and May, there are 8. So that difference is 2 people. How many more people have birthdays in September than November? September, in between 6 and 8, so it's at 7. November is at 4, so it's 3 people. Okay, there are lots of bar graphs to go through and look at, so let's look at this one. What kind of pet do you own? How many people own a dog? Looking at that scale, it counts by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, count by ones. So dog, follow it over, 8. Again, you can pause, work through these, and then check your answers. How many people own a goldfish? Follow that over. You'll see 6. What pet do 11 people own? Follow that over, see what I hit. It's a cat. What pet is the most owned pet? That's the mode. That's the tallest one. That's going to be a cat. What pet is the least owned pet? That's going to be your smallest bar, and that's going to be a rabbit. How many more people own a hamster than a rabbit? If a rabbit is 4, a hamster is 5, so just 1 person. In total, how many people were asked, what kind of pet do you own? How many people were surveyed here? Think of how you would figure that out. 4 people like rabbit, 5 people like hamster, 11 people like a cat, 8 people like a dog, 6 people like a goldfish. So to find the total, you just add all those up. So 4 and 8 is 12. Then you have 11, and then 6 and 5 is 11. Add that up, and you get 34 people. Just like you did with the dot plot, you counted all the dots on the dot plot. Here, you can just add up all your totals to see how many total people were surveyed. Okay, two more bar graph examples, and we're going to move on to line graph and then pie or circle graph. Okay, so sign up for summer programs. These are the different activities, and this is the number of people. Looking at your scale, there is a mistake, first of all, in this graph. They did not start it at 0. They started it at 10. So that's a mistake in this graph. It doesn't affect the actual numbers there, but it can affect how the graph looks. But you see that the scale, they did count by tens. So what was the most popular summer program? Hopefully you can pause and answer these questions. I'm going to go through and answer them that you can check in a second. So go ahead and pause. Okay, so here are the answers. Baseball, tennis, skating, 45 and 30 people. Mr. Chine and I are on the Schoology Conference if you have questions. Moving on to the next bar graph, cars sold in January. Pause the video, answer the questions, and I'll show the answers in just a second. All right, one typo here, what cars sold the least, not least in January. If you didn't read the title, you might have been confused on January. You're like, wait, where's the month? But these are all cars sold in January. So, what makes a car sold more than Buick, BMW, Toyota, and Honda? The least was Mercedes, the most was Honda. How many Buick cars were sold? Right in between 20 and 30, so 25. If you said 24, 25, or 26, those are acceptable. How many Honda cars were sold? 50, or I put 51 because actually if you look, that's a little bit over the line if we're being super close and careful there. So 50 or 51. What make sold 40 cars? BMW, right at 40. And how many more BMWs, 40, were sold than Kias at 20? And it's 20 cars. Okay, moving on to a line graph. Now remember, the line graph shows how data changes over time. So down here on your x-axis, your independent variable is time. So here it's years. They're talking about profits in thousands over years. This one doesn't have a title, but you can determine that it's some sort of company's profits over the years, and these are thousands. So this is really 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. You can see that it's counting by twos. You can look at the line graph and see that when it's going up, when you're reading it from left to right, if it goes up, that's increasing. It's getting more. It's increasing a lot. It's really, really steep here. Now when it goes down, it's decreasing, increasing a lot more there, and then just a tiny bit increase right there. So you can tell how the data changes over time, up or down. So what year had the least amount of profits? That's going to be your lowest point. That year is 2006. Looking at the years, 2006, 8, 10, 12, and 14. Which year had the most amount of profits? So where was it the highest? Is right here. That's where it's the highest. So that is 2013, right in between 2012 and 2014. How much profits were in 2008? 2008 is right here. Number of profits, don't just put 6, but it's actually 6,000. Between what 2 years was there the most increase? So you're looking for that steepest line, that most increase. So these two here are pretty steep, but comparing this slope with this slope, this one is steeper. So between what 2 years was 2008 and 2009? You can see how data changes over time. Between what 2 years was there the most decrease? Well, the only decreases here is 2009 to 2010. And what 2 years are missing a data plot? Well, let's look carefully at this. There's one for 2006. There's not one for 2007. Well, maybe it only goes every 2 years. Let's check. 2008. Oh, there's one for 2009, 2010. Not one for 2011. 2012 and 2013. So you're missing 2011 and 2007. So 2007 and 2011. Okay, here's another line graph with questions. So go ahead and pause this, answer the questions, and then I'll show the answers in just a second. Okay, so here are your answers. A decrease is from 17 to 18. Those are the other answers. And then in general, is the trend increasing or decreasing? For the most part, it's going up. Yeah, there's a little dip, but it's going back up. So in general, it's increasing. All right, here's a line graph with questions. So go ahead and pause the video, answer the questions, and I'll show my answers in a second. Okay, here are the answers. I want to look at how many push-ups did they do on Thursday. So looking really carefully at that, you see it's just a little bit below 15. So since the scale counts by fives, I figured that has to be 14. It's just right below it. Same thing with, well, Monday it's right on the dot for 10. And then Friday, it's just right above 15. So I said that was 16. And then Sunday, same thing, it's just right below 5. So I said that had to be 4. Okay, then just our last line graph here, just looking at a trend that's a little bit different than the others. So in general, is the trend increasing or decreasing? In general, looking at this one, it's going down, a little bit up, and then it's going down. So for the most part, it's decreasing. It has been a decrease from the start to the end. Monthly rainfall in the months April, May, June, and July, and then these are the number of inches. So this would be decreasing because it's going down, reading it from left to right for the most part. All right, moving on to a pie chart or a circle graph or a pie graph. These are helpful to compare part to whole relationship and the total. If we were to add 20, 30, 27, 11, and 12, we would get 100% to make the whole circle. So you can see what sport is the most popular. That biggest section right here, soccer is the most popular, 30%. It might, if you didn't have the percentages, it might look close to swimming. But since they give you the percentages, you can automatically answer soccer. What sport is the least popular? Again, if you didn't have the percentages, you might say, oh, gymnastics and tennis. But you can see gymnastics is smaller. What percent voted for tennis? 12%. And what sports had more than 20% votes? More than 20, so don't count track because that's right at 20. More than 20% would be soccer and swimming. All right, another circle graph here. Now this one has it color coded. I just printed it in black and white, so you can't necessarily see these color codes. So let's see, this one is pepperoni. Let's have this one is cheese. Hopefully you can see that. This one is sausage. And this one is supreme. Okay, now hopefully you can answer these questions. What pizza topping got half the votes? Half of that circle, pepperoni. What pizza topping is the least favorite? The smallest right there is supreme. And then put the pizza toppings in order from least to most favorite. So smallest, supreme, sausage, cheese, pepperoni, from least to most. All right, now this one, favorite movie genres in Miss Green's film class. What movie genre got 20% of the votes? 20% right there, you can see horror. Put the movie genres in order from most to least favorite. So our previous example was least to most. This one is most to least, so make sure you're reading carefully. Most would be comedy, action, horror, and then science fiction to put them in order. So comedy, action, horror, and science fiction. What fraction of the votes did comedy receive? Well, we know comedy got 37%, and you know how to change a percent to a fraction. So you would say 37% as a fraction. We know that percent means out of 100. So 37%, 37 out of 100, and that's in simplest form. You can't simplify that anymore. Okay guys, so make sure that you understand the 3 different types of graphs, what they're used for. Make sure you understand Sultan, and make sure you're able to answer questions from bar graphs, line graphs, and pie charts or circle graphs. All right, make sure you complete that homework check by the end of today. You should use your math time right now and complete it. Thank you.